Counting tokens, vision models. Magnus is magnificent again. Stack Overflow sells out its own users, and the usual tweets and toots. Welcome to Tales from the Jar Side. Welcome everybody to Tales from the Jar Side. My name is Ken Cousin. On this channel, we try to tell you what's going on in the technology world, what you should care about, and maybe what you shouldn't care about too. So this is the newsletter for May 5th through 12th, 2024. Regular readers of and listeners to, and of course, video viewers of this newsletter are affectionately known as jarheads and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than the regular average newsletter reader, listener, or viewer. If you wish to become a jarhead, click on the subscribe button either on the newsletter or, of course, on the YouTube channel. Before we get started with the main content, I do want to give a shout out to Jarhead John Sheehy, who I met at the No Fluff Just Stuff event last weekend in Boston. Hey, John, good to see you. Let's move on to our first section. One topic I've talked about a few times on this channel is how the context window on API tools keeps growing rather rapidly. Now, that's really been growing by a remarkable amount. I mean, when these AI tools first burst into the mainstream, then the context window, the amount of tokens they could remember, if you will, was approximately 2K or sometimes 4K or sometimes even 8K, 8,000 tokens. And the ratio of tokens to words is, they usually say 1,000 words, rather 1,000 tokens is about 750 words. So there's your 2/3 relationship, or actually that's 3/4 relationship now that I think about it. So at any rate, that's the rough idea. And when you're limited to that many tokens, there's not a lot you could fit in there, although that does sound like a fair amount. Well, Claude 2 upped that limit to 100,000 tokens, which is a lot. And then Claude 3 made it 200,000 tokens. And then Gemini 1.5 Pro from Google raised that all the way to 1 million tokens. So that's a lot. And what I thought I'd do is dive into an experiment with that. Now, recently I took my book, Help Your Boss Help You, the PDF there, and I extracted the text from it and uploaded it to the entire context window of a Gemini request. Stuff, they call that prompt stuffing. I put the entire text of the book in the prompt, and I asked it to summarize the book, and it did a really good job, actually. But that book was 60,000 words long, which is roughly 80,000 tokens, something like that, and that fits in a lot of models. Well, this week I went to the banned books page at Project Gutenberg, which you can see here. And you can see there's a whole bunch of books being listed here: Uncle Tom's Cabin, Madame Bovary, etc. And on each one of those, you can go to the actual book and download the book in plain text in HTML form, or rather just regular UTF-8 documentation like that. So I downloaded a handful, and you can see the names there. There's a Communist Manifesto and The Clouds, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and you can see the number of tokens goes up and up and up. Now, it turns out Gemini actually has an endpoint where you can find out how many tokens are in a request. So it's a counting tokens endpoint. And when I sent the books to that endpoint, keeping in mind there's a Project Gutenberg license in them, those were the numbers I got. So even on Les Miserables, which is the biggest book I think I ever attempted and didn't finish, that was 873,000 tokens. That could fit. But Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire famously goes on and on forever. That's 2.7 million tokens. That's the only one I couldn't fit into the overall prompt. Now, there was no easy way for me to order that book list by size, so I just had to sample, and there you go. Here's the prompt I stuffed the book into. It just said, summarize the plot and explain why it might wind up on a banned books list. And the AI did a pretty good job. I mean, I was curious about why Sherlock Holmes wound up on a banned books list, and Gemini couldn't figure it out either. It just said the book's a collection of short stories and it would be highly unlikely to end up on a banned books list. And that's true. And it gave me a couple of line summaries of each of the texts, but yeah, no reason why they would be banned. I mean, retrieval augmented generation, RAG, is still important, but you can see that we got a lot of room to play with. Sometimes it's worth it just trying to put the whole book into the request. Let's move on to the next section. section is called Vision Models. This image that you could see right here is one that I generated using DALL-E 3 or Stable Diffusion. I forget which one. This one might be a Stable Diffusion image. And you see it's a bunch of cats playing cards. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And then there's 4 different, basically looks like mugs there that is filled with something white, which presumably is milk, but I don't know, could be coffee with a lot of cream in it. And there's cards on the floor, and I don't see a table or anything like that. Well, what I did is I submitted that picture to several of the open source vision models. Llama 3 may be the one you've heard of. That's the open source large language model. See, Llama, large language model from Facebook/Meta. Well, Lava, the V stands for vision, is the, as it says there in the documentation, a novel end-to-end trained large multimodal model that combines a vision encoder and Vicuna, not Llama 3, for general purpose visual and language understanding. There's another model that I've seen called Baklava. Yeah, really bad pun there. I apologize. And that one is the same idea, but based on Mistral, the Mistral 7 billion model. Well, this week, 2 new models appeared, one both for Lava, one based on Llama 3 and one based on Phi 3, the new one from Microsoft. So I ran that image through all 4. The Llama one had a lot of trouble with the number of cats. See, it thinks there's only 3 there. And it thinks the cats are holding the cards and there's human elements. Well, I guess that's kind of right. Okay, not too bad. The one with Lava 3 said, okay, it's a moment of tranquility featuring 4 cats this time, arranged on a wooden floor, and that looks pretty good. Playing cards and mugs of coffee. The mugs filled to the brim with what appears to be hot coffee are placed near the cat's paws. Sort of, yeah, I guess so. Now, Phi 3, the one from Microsoft, when Lava was based on that, we got a lot more detail. We still have 4 cats, but we got details about the cats, which are at least 4 of the 5. We got 2 mugs rather than, of course, the 4 that were there. The boldface there was in the output in Markdown. When I plugged it in here, I emphasized it myself. The pile of playing cards, a spoon, which, I mean, I've looked all through that picture. I don't see a spoon in it. And so on. And Baklava was the funny one, which just said 4 cats. That was it. Now, I took that image and I uploaded it to ChatGPT 4, and at least it got the number of cats right. It said 5 cats. It did identify a table, which isn't there. And you can see the rest of it. It's kind of helpful. I don't know, a small mug possibly filled with milk, etc. Now, what happened today, I got to mention. Let me do that in the next section. So at least the ones I included in the newsletter are pretty good. And then the next section, I'll talk a bit more about what happened today, believe it or not. So today, OpenAI had a big announcement where they announced this thing, GPT-4o. The O apparently is short for Omni, as they say here, a step toward much more natural human-computer interaction, whatever. It accepts as input any combination of text, audio, and image, and generates any combination of text, audio, and image outputs. They put a little link in there. This is to the vision model in the documentation. That's new. I had not seen that before, and you could see that they have a JSON object here that you could submit that has an image URL in it that points to the actual image. And then they have a sample in the code below using Python code, but you could see that this is actually plugging in the base 64 encoded string into that image. Finally, if you look at the pricing model here, you could see that GPT-4o is $5 per million input tokens, 15 for a million output tokens. That's half of what GPT-4 Turbo is. So I'm going to switch everything over to that. And by the way, the vision pricing one for a 1024 by 1024 image, which is what I have, is about a third of a penny. So that's not bad at all. And let me show you that I wrote just a quick bit of code in order to see what it would do with my image. What you can see here is I have a class in Java called a vision service, just to keep it simple. And this is a Spring-based service. This is in my Spring application. So I set up a REST client. I could probably auto-wire one in, but I just want to get this working quickly. So it sets the proper base URL, sets the authentication, or rather the authorization header inside there, the content type and accept headers are normal. And here's that payload. I put it in as a multi-line Java string. So I'm going to GPT-4o again. The content now is an array where the first object says type is text, and the text is what's in this image. And the second object is an image URL. But here what it's doing is allowing me to plug in the base 64 encoded local image. So data colon image slash JPEG is the MIME type, semicolon base 64 comma, and then you plug it in. So in here, what I do is I encode the image using Java's base 64 encoder and plug it into the formatted string here, put it in the body and upload it and see what I get out of it. And when I ran that, then this is the output I got. You could see the entire JSON object right here. It's a chat completion. There's the model. And it says the image depicts a humorous scene of 5 cats, they can count, gathered around a table. Oops, well, with playing cards spread out as if they're playing a card game. Each cat has a small cup of milk next to them. The setting appears as if they're participating in a serious card game, adding a whimsical and amusing touch to the image. So, hey, I got more work to do with this thing, but at least I was able to upload an image and see that it worked. And we got a pretty good answer, although I don't know where the table's coming from, but we got something. And this will all be part of an upcoming video. Returning to the newsletter, I follow a lot of chess as a spectator sport, watch the grandmasters go at it and everything. I play, but I'm not that good. I'm good enough to follow what's going on, especially when you have expert commentators explaining all the subtleties out of it. So I follow it much the same way I follow football or basketball or baseball. I know what's going on, but my ability to play has, long been somewhat laughable, I suppose. At any rate, Magnus Carlsen gave up the world championship a couple years ago. He's still the greatest player of his generation, but he got tired of the championship cycle that was happening every couple of years. And therefore, he didn't want to play classical chess that much anymore. He likes blitz and rapid. He thinks the classical has too much of an emphasis on memorization and opening theory, and he likes the intermix of playing the game under time pressure and everything. So Ding Liren from China is the current world champion. Gukesh Dommaraju is from India, will be the 17-year-old challenger that happens late this year. But because Magnus likes to play blitz and rapid, an entire tour of tournaments associated with those has sprung up around him. The first tour of the season was called here the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland. 10 players competed in a single rapid round robin, followed by a double round robin of blitz. And before the last day, Wei Yi, also from China, had a good 2.5 point lead over Carlsen, and that's a lot to make up. That's quite a significant lead, and he might make it up if Yi collapsed or something, and he didn't. Spoiler alert, he played great the final day, every bit. Magnus complained about his play the previous day, but somehow he relaxed on the second day. And here's the headline that came out as soon as the tournament ended. Carlsen wins Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland with a 10-game winning streak. And yeah, here's his scorecard. Now, that included a game from the previous day, a couple of games, but he won 10 in a row. Basically beat everybody. There's Gukesh, there's Wei Yi, there's Prag, there's Aragasi. Giri, it's just, he beat Gukesh twice in that set. Like, oh my goodness. So you get an idea of what a roll he was on. And Yi did have a great day, but when Magnus does that, what are you going to do? It reminded me of an old story from Isaac Newton's later days. He was 55 years old and not yet master of the mint, but he was one of the wardens of the mint. And he was working hard all day long. Comes home, finds a letter from Johann Bernoulli, one of the parents, the father of the entire Bernoulli clan, sent him a challenge that he'd issued to all the mathematicians of Europe to solve this problem, which, if you know anything about it, was the so-called brachistochrone problem. It's the shape of a cable that's under its own weight, basically. And he found this letter there at like 4 p.m. And by 4 a.m. the next morning, it cracked it, written up his solution, sent it off to the the Royal Society for publication anonymously. And then Bernoulli eventually saw it and knew immediately that it had to have come from Newton, famously saying, "One recognizes the lion by his paw." Like, okay, or his claw rather. And it's all a reminder to me that, yeah, Ding Liren's the champion and Gukesh is the challenger, but everybody knows who the real lion is, and he's still got his claws. So thought you might like to see that one. Wanted to mention something else that happened this week because it's AI related. Stack Overflow is the definitive site for asking questions and getting answers on various technical topics, or at least it has been for about a decade. And it gamified the whole situation. You get points for questions being upvoted or for answers being upvoted. You could win various badges and privileges and stuff. And I have a, I have a it's a decent rating, I guess, around 3,000 or something. It's not real high. I never spent a lot of time there. Mostly my ratings were for good questions because I didn't want to take forever to answer questions, and all the easy questions get answered really, really fast. Well, along came AI tools, and AI tools are the bane of a site like that because people would feed the questions into an AI tool, take the answers, and just upload them directly as though they were their own. And of course, Stack Overflow had to react to this by eventually banning all AI tools. Well, that was all well and good until recently when it decided, and there's a link here, to selling its entire collection of questions and answers to OpenAI. And there's an article I found at TechCrunch, signing a deal so that OpenAI could use all those questions and answers to train its next generation of models. Well, that made a lot of users really upset because they didn't really want their work to be used as training data for AI tools. Now, the truth is according to the license they signed, they didn't really have anything to say about it. But nevertheless, some users tried to delete their answers or sabotage their posts. And as this person said, this was a quote in the article, that Stack Overflow does not let you delete questions that have accepted answers. So this person changed their highest rated answers to a protest message, and within an hour, the mods had changed the questions back and suspended the person's account for a week. It's like, oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, if you are working with a tool that offers the tool used for free, then as they say, you're the product, you're the one being sold. And now we're seeing an illustration of it because now there's a whole new market for that data. And it's these AI models that need it for training. Casey Newton wrote an interesting article on his platformer newsletter about how AI has changed the bargain between platforms and users. And okay, I mean, I'm not surprised to see this. I'll probably see more of it in the future. But there it is. And I guess it kind of justifies my laziness or procrastination around earning points or medals on Stack Overflow. I think we're watching the death throes of one of the major developer sites on the internet. Oh, well. Now for the tweets and toots. Apple tried to make a new ad for its iPad. And boy, did it botch that. The ad was so-called Crush, and the idea was that this giant hydraulic press was squishing together tons of musical objects. Like I think there was a trombone in there was a piano, paint cans, everything, until a single iPad remained. And then they were surprised when a lot of people viewed that whole thing as a metaphor for how big tech is basically cashing in on everybody's creative works and destroying them in the process. So then, as a gift article I linked here from the New York Times put it, Apple doesn't make mistakes often and seldom apologizes. But on Thursday, its head of advertising said the company had erred in making a new iPad commercial that showed an industrial compressor flattening tools for art, music, and creativity. And yeah, I can see how people got upset with that. Now, if you're interested, the ad is still embedded in Tim Cook's original tweet. So I put a link to the tweet in there if you want to watch it. And it's like, yeah, I can see how that might be a problem. Next, I want to comment on the aurora borealis that descended over much further south than of the world than it normally does, due to the abnormally large emission that came from the sun recently. In my town of Marlborough, Connecticut, I grabbed this picture from Joanna Voskanoff, a resident from Marlboro who's in a Facebook group. We're all in a group together, and she posted this, and it looks pretty dramatic. I mean, nice and pink and everything. It reminded me of this meme where somebody posted "Sky's gay now because of woke," which obviously not, but I thought that'd be funny. And I like this meme as well, where it's the distracted boyfriend, where the girlfriend here is the solar eclipse we just had recently, and yet over here we have the new aurora borealis. So we've had in the past couple of months an eclipse, an earthquake in the Northeast, and an aurora all at the same year. It has to mean something, right? And of course the answer is no. But if it gets you to go out and vote, then I guess that's a good thing. You may be familiar with Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. A robot may not harm a human being or through omission allow a human being to come to harm, etc. Well, somebody proposed a 4th law based on this whole chaos at Stack Overflow. It said a robot may not harm shareholder value nor through inaction allow shareholder value to come to harm. Yeah, okay. It's probably not in there yet, but somebody's working on adding that now, I'm sure. Elon kind of was in the news again. The Neuralink company, which wants to embed chips in people's brains, has an experiment going on where they put a chip in the brain of a quadriplegic who agreed to this, who was in an auto accident and now can't move. And he's been able to move a mouse around with his mind, apparently. Well, the article I linked here from ABC said a test subject this week developed a problem as a few of the chip's connective threads detached from his brain. Yikes, whatever that means, but it can't be anything good. Though they found a workaround, from what I understand, it was just turning up the gain, but still, that's a bit much. Ever the marketeer, Musk claimed the company's first product will be called telepathy, of all things. Yeah, right. But what put it in this section is the Riker Googling post, why did Elon Musk invent the Borg? And obviously it was to make money. I saw this image as part of a post that said I need to rehome a dog. It's a small terrier and barks the whole day. If you're interested, let me know and I'll jump over my neighbor's fence and get it for you. Yeah. We have a neighbor with a dog like that. Fortunately, the dog spends most of its time indoors, but oh well. This one was really great. This was a parrot doing a little bit of a dance, and a woman transformed that dance into something that really looked gorgeous. So I recommend you take a look at that one. I'm not going to play it here, but it's excellent. The link is in the newsletter. And then this one said an Exxon sign said free gas any day Trump doesn't say something stupid. And like, yeah, good luck with that. And finally, this one was on an Express Lube sign. It said, girls, girls, girls. Just kidding. It's oil changes. Yeah, as you might imagine. So I hope you enjoyed the newsletter. I'll see you all next week, and let's cue that theme song. Take care, everybody.